"Know your place, you stupid old hag." Those were the last words I heard before I felt my hair being yanked with such force I thought my scalp would tear away. My son-in-law, Brad, dragged me down the hallway as if I were a bag of trash. My knees slammed against the cold ceramic tile. I tasted blood in my mouth. He threw me into a small room at the back of the house, a windowless utility room that used to hold old boxes and rusty tools. The door slammed shut with a dry thud. I heard the key turn in the lock. I lay there on the floor, trembling not from fear, but from rage. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am 60 years old, and for nearly 2 years, I allowed my own daughter and her husband to turn me into a prisoner inside my own home. But that night, locked in that dark room that smelled of dampness and neglect, with a split lip and my pride shattered, I pulled something out of my bra that they never knew I had. A secret burner phone. My hands shook as I typed a text message, just an address, and 3 words more. I need help. I sent it to an old contact. 25 minutes later, I heard the sirens. And in that moment, Sarah and Brad discovered exactly who they had messed with. But to understand how I ended up in that dark room, with disheveled hair and a broken heart, I must go back to the beginning, to the day when everything seemed perfect, to the day I still believed my daughter loved me. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. 3 years ago, my life was completely different. I lived alone in a modest but dignified house in a quiet suburb of Chicago, a 2-story home with a small garden where I grew lilacs and hydrangeas. In the mornings, the aroma of fresh brewed coffee mixed with the singing of the birds. I had my routine, my friends from the farmer's market, my walks through the park on Sundays. I worked for 35 years as an executive assistant at a reputable law firm downtown. It wasn't a life of luxury, but it was an honest life. When my husband, Robert, died 10 years ago of a sudden heart attack, I was left alone. Sarah was already married. She had her own family, or so I thought. My Social Security and small pension weren't making me a millionaire, but they were sufficient. $2,200 a month, a modest but dignified amount that allowed me to live without asking anyone for anything. I paid my utilities, bought my groceries, and even allowed myself the luxury of inviting Sarah and her 2 children over for lunch every other Sunday. I remember those meals with a clarity that hurts. I would prepare my famous pot roast, Sarah's favorite since she was a child. I set the table with the embroidered tablecloth my mother gave me. My grandchildren, Tyler and Madison, ran around the yard while I made them fresh lemonade. Sarah would arrive with a smile, hug me and say, "Smells delicious, Mom. Nobody cooks like you." Brad always arrived late, always with a furrowed brow, always with his phone in his hand. At first, I thought it was just work stress. Sarah had told me he ran an auto parts business, that things were tough, that the economy wasn't helping. I nodded. I served more pot roast. I stayed silent when he raised his voice to tell Sarah the food was too salty or that the kids were making too much noise. "It's just his temper, Mom," Sarah would tell me later, making excuses for him. "You know how men are when they're under pressure," and I stayed silent. I have always been one of those who stay silent. But there was a moment when Sarah started visiting me more frequently, not just on Sundays anymore. Suddenly she would appear during the week, always with some excuse. "Mom, I was in the neighborhood and wanted to say hi. Mom, the kids wanted to see you. Mom, do you have any coffee?" At first, I was happy. I thought my daughter finally understood the value of spending time with her mother. I thought life had taught her that family is the only thing that matters. How naive I was. The visits always ended the same way. We drank coffee, chatted about trivialities, and then, almost casually, Sarah would drop a question. "Mom, how are you doing with your bills?" "Mom, is the pension enough?" "Mom, if you ever need help, you know you can count on me, right?" I smiled at her. I told her I was fine, that I didn't need anything. But Sarah insisted. "It's just that I worry about you, Mom. You're alone. What if something happens to you? What if you get sick and don't have money for medication?" Those words hung in the air like smoke. And although I pushed them away, knowing I was perfectly fine, something inside me began to feel uneasy. It was during one of those visits that I saw Sarah's phone vibrate on the table. She grabbed it quickly, too quickly. I saw the name on the screen before she turned it over. "Brad, don't answer in front of her." My heart skipped a beat. Sarah stood up from the table. Sorry, Mom, it's work. I'll be back in a second. She went out to the yard, closing the sliding glass door, but I could see her through the glass. I saw her pacing back and forth. I saw her gesturing. I saw her look toward the kitchen, toward where I was, with an expression I couldn't decipher. When she returned, her smile was forced. "Mom," she said, sitting down across from me again, "Brad and I have been thinking, you here alone, in this big house, us in that tiny apartment with the kids. Don't you think it would be better, that it would be more logical to live all together?" I felt a weight in my stomach. "Live together?" I repeated. "Yes, Mom, think about it. You would help us with the kids. We would take care of you. It would be perfect, like a real family." Something in her tone didn't sit right with me. Something about the way she said real family sounded hollow. But Sarah was my only daughter, and at 60, I was tired of being alone. "Let me think about it," I told her. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my rocking chair, looking out the window at the dark garden. The hydrangeas swayed in the wind. The full moon illuminated the clay pots. And for the first time in a long time, I felt fear not of being alone, but of no longer being alone. 3 weeks later, Sarah and Brad moved into my house. They brought their furniture, they brought their boxes, they brought their noise. And from the first day, I felt like it wasn't my house anymore. Brad walked through the hallways as if he were the owner. He moved my things without asking. He changed the TV channel, even if I was watching it. He opened the pantry and complained there was no real food. "Bah, just old lady snacks," he said, throwing my oatmeal cookies and bran cereal into the trash, and Sarah just laughed. "Don't pay attention to him, Mom. You know how he is." But I didn't know how he was, because the Brad I knew from family meals was quiet, distant. This Brad was invasive, rude, territorial, and my daughter let him do it. The first real sign came 2 months after they moved in. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when Sarah walked in with a manila envelope. "Mom, I need you to sign this." She dropped the envelope on the table. "What is it?" I asked, drying my hands on my apron. "Just some papers to update your medical insurance, just in case. You know, at your age, it's important to have everything in order." Something in her gaze avoided mine. I opened the envelope. There were several documents, fine print, legal terms I didn't fully understand. "And this about power of attorney?" I asked, pointing to one of the sheets. Sarah tensed up. "It's just so I can help you with paperwork if something happens to you, Mom. Nothing serious. It's routine." But my gut told me it wasn't routine. "Let me read it calmly," I told her, closing the envelope. Sarah's expression changed. Just for a second, I saw something in her eyes I had never seen before. Irritation. "Whatever you want, Mom," she said, leaving the kitchen. That night, I put the unsigned envelope in the drawer of my nightstand. And for the first time since I was 12 years old, since my father taught me to look out for myself, I did something I didn't tell anyone. I went to the strip mall, walked into an electronics store, and bought a basic prepaid cell phone. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just knew I needed it. I hid it in the back of my closet, wrapped in an old scarf, and continued living as if everything were fine, but nothing was fine anymore. While I tell this story, I think about where you might be listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The following months were a slow agony disguised as normality. Sarah stopped asking about the power of attorney papers, but I knew she hadn't forgotten. I saw it in the way she watched me when I checked the mail. I saw it in the way she entered my room without knocking, as if looking for something. Brad, for his part, became increasingly present in the house and increasingly absent from work. His supposed auto parts business seemed not to exist. He woke up late, spent hours in front of the TV, yelled when the kids made noise, and always looked at me with that barely disguised contempt. "Is lunch ready, Eleanor?" he would say. Never Mrs. Vance. Never mother-in-law. Just Eleanor. As if I were his employee. One day I dared to correct him. "I would appreciate it if you addressed me with more respect, Brad." He let out a loud laugh. "Respect? You're living under the same roof as me, eating my food, using my electricity, my water, and you ask me for respect?" I froze. "This is my house," I said, my voice as steady as I could manage. "For now," he replied, and walked out of the kitchen. For now. Those 2 words stayed with me like a splinter stuck in my chest. What did he mean by "for now"? That night, when When Sarah and Brad went out to drop the kids off at his mother's house, I checked my desk, the drawer where I kept my important documents. The deed to the house, birth certificates, my will. Everything was there. But something wasn't right. The papers were shuffled, as if someone had taken them out in a hurry and put them back carelessly. I always ordered them chronologically. I always left them aligned in their folders. Someone had been snooping in my things. I felt a lump in my throat. I closed the drawer, and in that moment, I made a decision. The next day, without saying anything to Sarah, I left the house early, called a cab, and went to the bank. The branch manager who attended me was the same as always, Mr. Henderson, a man in his 52s who always treated me with kindness. "Good morning, Mrs. Vance. How can I help you?" "I need to check my account," I told him. "And I want to know if anyone else has access to it." Mr. Henderson typed on his computer and frowned. "Your account is in your name only. No one else has access. Is there a problem?" I didn't lie. I just wanted to make sure. "Do you wish to add a beneficiary, a family member?" "No," I answered quickly. "In fact, I want to ensure no one can make transactions without my physical presence here at the bank. Is that possible?" Mr. Henderson nodded. "Of course. We can place a security restriction. Any transaction over $100 will require your signature and ID at the teller window. Do it, please." I signed the necessary documents, and when I left the bank, I breathed a little easier. But that peace didn't last long. 2 weeks later, the day my Social Security deposit arrived came around. It was the 3rd of the month. It always arrived on the 3rd. $2,200 exactly. That morning after breakfast, Sarah approached me with a cup of coffee in her hand. "Mom, your check arrived, right?" I nodded. "Perfect. I need you to give me $1,000. I looked at her without comprehending. "What for?" "For groceries, Mom. For utilities, for household expenses. You live here, it's only fair." There was something logical in her words, but also something wrong. "I buy my own groceries," I told her. "And I've always paid the utilities, but now there are more people, Mom. More electricity, more water, more gas. And Brad isn't working right now. Things are tight." There it was, the truth. Brad wasn't working, and now they wanted me to support the whole family. "Sarah, my check isn't enough for everyone. It barely covers my needs." My daughter slammed the cup onto the table. "I can't believe you're so selfish, Mom. We are taking care of you, giving you company, and you can't help us with a little money?" "It's not a little money, Sarah. It's $1,000. That's almost half my income." "So what? What do you spend it on?" "On what, Mom? You don't pay rent here. You pay almost nothing. You are so ungrateful." The words hurt more than any physical blow. Ungrateful. My own daughter called me ungrateful in my own house. "I'll think about it," I said, just to end the conversation. Sarah got up from the table and left the kitchen without saying goodbye. That afternoon, when I went to the grocery store, I felt a tightness in my chest that wouldn't let me breathe properly. I walked through the produce aisles on autopilot. I bought tomatoes, onions, the bare minimum. And when I returned home, Brad was sitting in my favorite chair, my rocking chair, the one Robert gave me for our 20th anniversary. "We need to talk," he told me without even looking at me. I set the grocery bags on the kitchen table. "About what?" "Money. Sarah told me you don't want to pitch in for expenses. It's not that I don't want to. It's that I can't." Brad stood up from the rocking chair, walked toward me, and planted himself in front of me with his arms crossed. "Look, Eleanor, here's how it is. You live here because we allow it. This house is big, it costs money to maintain. And you have a pension you didn't earn alone because your husband contributed too, so that money belongs to Sarah as well." I was speechless. "My income is mine," I managed to say. "Your income belongs to the family, and here, the family includes everyone. So every month you are going to give $1,000 for the house. It's non-negotiable. And if I don't want to?" Brad smiled. It was a cold, calculating smile. "Then you're going to have to look for another place to live, and at your age, with what rent costs, good luck." He turned around and left the kitchen. I stood there, hands trembling. That night I didn't eat dinner. I couldn't. I locked myself in my room and sat on the bed. I looked around at the walls I had painted peach myself, the dresser I bought with my first paycheck, the photos of Robert, of Sarah as a child, of my parents, everything I had built, everything I had cared for, and now they were taking it from me. I opened the closet, took the old scarf from the back, and unwrapped the secret cell phone. I turned it on. It had battery. And in that moment, although I still didn't know what I was going to do, I knew that little device would be my salvation. I saved one number, a single number, an old acquaintance I hadn't seen in years, someone who owed me a favor, someone I could trust. I didn't call him yet. Not yet. But knowing I could gave me a little strength. 3 days later, Sarah entered my room without knocking. I was folding laundry. "Mom, I need your debit card." I looked up. "My card?" "Yes. I'm going to the supermarket. I need to buy groceries. Give me the card and your PIN. Sarah, I'll go with you. I buy my groceries as usual." "No, Mom, not anymore. Now I handle everything. It's easier this way. Give me the card." "No." The word left my mouth before I could stop it. Sarah narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean?" "No. I am not giving you my card." "Why not? Don't you trust me, your own daughter?" "It's not that, Sarah. It's that the card is mine, it's my money, and I manage it." My daughter crossed her arms. She had the same expression as Brad, that mix of contempt and coldness. "Fine, Mom, don't give it to me, but don't expect me to keep taking care of you." And she left my room, slamming the door. The following days were a silent hell. Sarah stopped talking to me. Brad ignored me completely. Even the kids, Tyler and Madison, seemed to have received instructions to stay away from me. I ate alone, watched TV alone, walked through my own house like a ghost. And every night before sleeping, I took out the secret phone, looked at it, and thought, not yet, not yet. But soon, one afternoon, when I went out to the garden to water the plants, I found something that froze my blood. My hydrangeas, my beautiful hydrangeas that I had cared for over years. They were ripped out. Someone had torn them out by the roots and thrown them in the trash. I entered the house shaking. Who tore out my plants? Brad was in the living room watching TV. "Me," he said without turning to look at me. "They were in the way. I want to put a smoker there for barbecues." "Those plants were 10 years old. They were mine. This house belongs to everyone, Eleanor. Get over it." I felt something inside me break, but I didn't cry. Not anymore. Because in that moment, I understood something very clearly. This wasn't a family. This was an invasion, and I needed a plan. I still ask myself if I did the right thing by staying silent for so long. Have you ever allowed something out of fear of being alone? During the following weeks, I tried to convince myself things would get better. I got up earlier to make breakfast before Brad woke up. I cleaned the house from top to bottom without anyone asking. I cooked Sarah's favorite dishes, hoping to soften her heart. But nothing worked. Sarah remained distant, Brad remained invasive, and I kept feeling like a stranger in my own home. The day I turned 61, I woke up with a small hope. I thought maybe Sarah would remember, that maybe there would be a cake, a happy birthday, something. I dressed with more care than usual. I put on a burgundy dress Robert had given me years ago. I did my hair, applied a little makeup. I went down to the kitchen expecting to find my family gathered. But the kitchen was empty. Sarah and Brad had left early. They left dirty breakfast dishes in the sink, chairs askew, breadcrumbs on the table. I spent the whole day alone. No one called, no one arrived. At 8 p.m., when Sarah finally returned with the kids, I was sitting in the living room watching an old movie on TV. "Hi, Mom," Sarah said, not even turning to look at me. "Hi, honey." I waited. Maybe she had forgotten. Maybe she would remember at any moment. But Sarah went upstairs with the kids and closed her bedroom door. I stayed there in the living room with a shrinking heart, and for the first time since Robert died, I cried. I cried in silence so no one would hear me, so no one would know my own daughter had forgotten my birthday. That night, before going to bed, I took out the secret phone. I looked at the saved number, the only contact I had there. My fingers hovered over the keypad. Not yet, I told myself. Can I still fix this? But deep down, I knew nothing was going to be fixed. 2 weeks later, the next Social Security deposit arrived. $2,200. As always, That morning after breakfast, Brad sat across from me at the kitchen table. "Eleanor, we need to talk." I set my coffee cup on the table. "About what?" "Your check. It arrived, right?" I nodded. "Good. Then give me $1,500. I froze. "You said it was $1,000. "Yeah, well, prices went up. The kids need school supplies. We have to pay electricity, gas, phone." "Brad, I can't give you $1,500. I need that money for my prescriptions, for my things." "Your pills don't cost that much. Stop playing the victim and give me the money." "No." The word came out firm, firmer than I expected. Brad got up from the chair, walked toward me, and leaned over the table, bringing his face close to mine. "You know what, Eleanor? I'm tired of your tantrums. I'm tired of your selfishness. Everyone here pulls their weight except you. Brad, this is my house, my money, and I decide what to do with it." He let out a dry laugh. "Your house, your pension, your money. You know what happens to stubborn old women like you? They end up alone, abandoned in a nursing home. Is that what you want?" I felt a chill run down my spine. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you the truth. If you don't want to cooperate with this family, then you aren't part of this family, and people who aren't family are redundant." He straightened up, turned his back to me, and stopped in the doorway before leaving the kitchen. "You have until tomorrow to give me that $1,500 or I start looking for nursing homes." And he left. I sat in the kitchen trembling, not from fear, from rage. But more than rage, I felt something worse. I felt helplessness. Because as much as I wanted to kick them out of my house, as much as I wanted to scream at them to leave, I knew it wasn't that easy. They were my daughter, my grandchildren, and despite everything, I still loved them. That afternoon, when Sarah came in from the street, I waited for her in the living room. "Sarah, I need to talk to you." My daughter took off her shoes and collapsed onto the sofa. "What is it, Mom?" "Brad asked me for $1,500 from my check and threatened to put me in a nursing home if I don't give it to him." I waited for a reaction. I expected Sarah to be outraged, to defend her mother, to tell her husband he was out of line, but Sarah just sighed. "Oh, Mom, Brad didn't threaten you. He's just stressed. Things are very tough for us." "Tough? And for me? No? This is my house, Sarah, my income. I can't support a whole family." "We aren't asking you to support the whole family. Just to cooperate. Just to be fair." "Fair? Fair to whom? To the man who ripped out my plants? To the man who disrespects me every day?" Sarah stood up. "I am tired of this conversation, Mom. You are always the victim. You always complain. You know what? Brad is right. You are selfish. You always have been." The words hit me like stones. "Sarah, no. Mom, let me finish. It's been like this my whole life. When Dad died, you only thought about yourself, your pain, your loneliness. You never thought that I lost him too, that I was suffering too. That's not true." "Yes, it is. And now that I finally have a family and need help, you turn your back on me. You deny me the only thing I ask." "I am not denying you anything, Sarah. I am just telling you I can't give you $1,500 every month. It's too much. Then give me $800. Something. But stop acting like a martyr." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. That wasn't my daughter. That wasn't the child I raised. That wasn't the little Sarah who hugged me and said, "I love you, Mommy," before bed. That woman had Brad's cold eyes. She had his same hardness. "Fine," I said, defeated. "I'll give you $800 this month." Sarah nodded. "Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd see reason." And she went upstairs without saying goodbye. The next day I went to the bank, withdrew $800 in cash, put it in an envelope, and gave it to Sarah. She didn't even say thank you. She just took the envelope and put it in her purse. That night I checked my balance. I had $1,400 left. I had to pay electricity, 200, gas, 100 phone, 100, my blood pressure medication, $100 with copay, and my groceries. I did the math over and over. It barely stretched. And there were still 20 days left until the next deposit. The following days were constant tension. Sarah and Brad acted as if everything was fine, as if I hadn't just given them $800, as if I weren't struggling to make ends meet. One afternoon, when I went to the store, I had to put several things back on the shelf because I didn't have enough cash. The cashier looked at me with pity when I asked her to take off the cheese, the ham, and the chicken. "Are you sure, ma'am?" "Yes, dear, I'm sure." I returned home with only the basics: beans, rice, tomatoes, onions, bread. That night, Brad made fun of my dinner. "Beans again, Eleanor? Do you have no imagination?" I didn't answer. I just ate in silence. The next day, while I was cleaning my room, I found something strange. My jewelry box was open. I always kept it closed, always. I checked it with a racing heart. Something was missing. My gold earrings, the ones Robert gave me for our 15th anniversary, the only earrings of value I had left, they were gone. I ran down the stairs. "Sarah! Sarah!" My daughter came out of the kitchen. "What is it, Mom? Why are you screaming?" "My earrings. My gold earrings. Have you seen them?" Sarah shrugged. "No, Mom. I don't know what earrings you're talking about." "The earrings your father gave me, the ones that are always in my jewelry box. They've disappeared." "Well, I don't know, Mom. Maybe you lost them. You know your memory isn't that good anymore." I froze. "I didn't lose them. Someone took them." Sarah looked at me with annoyance. "Are you accusing me of something?" "I didn't say that, but you're implying it. You think I stole your earrings?" "Sarah, I'm just asking if you've seen them." "No, Mom, I haven't seen them, and I think it's very ugly that you go around accusing your own family of theft." She turned around and walked away. I stood there in the middle of the living room, feeling more alone than ever. I went up to my room, locked the door, and cried. I cried for the earrings. I cried for the money. I cried for my dignity. But above all, I cried because I finally understood something. I wasn't losing my things due to carelessness. They were stealing them. And when I took out the secret phone that night, I didn't think not yet. I thought soon. Very soon. While I tell all this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The next month my check arrived as always, $2,200. But this time something was different. This time I was prepared. I went to the bank the same day as the deposit. I arrived early, before the shops opened. I sat on the bench in the lobby and waited. When Mr. Henderson arrived, he greeted me with his usual kindness. "Good morning, Mrs. Vance. You're here early." "Good morning. I need to speak with you. It's important." He showed me to his desk. He closed the office door. "What's happening?" I took a deep breath. "I need you to explain something to me. If someone wanted to take money from my account without me being present, could they do it?" Mr. Henderson frowned. "No, Mrs. Vance. As I explained months ago, we put restrictions on your account. Any transaction requires your physical presence and your ID. Why do you ask?" "Do you have a suspicion?" "Yes. I believe my family is trying to access my money." Mr. Henderson nodded slowly. "I understand. Unfortunately, it is more common than people think. Family members taking advantage of seniors. Has anyone asked for your card or PIN?" "Yes, my daughter." "And did you give them to her?" "No." "Good. Keep it that way. And if you allow me a piece of personal advice, consider opening a secret savings account, one that only you know about for emergencies." His words gave me an idea. "Can I do that now?" "Of course." 30 minutes later, I left the bank with a new debit card, a savings account completely independent of my pension. I had transferred $800 to that account, money no one knew existed. I hid the card in the safest place I could think of inside a canister of oatmeal in my pantry cupboard in the basement utility room. No one would look there. When I returned home, Brad was waiting for me in the living room. "Where were you?" "I went to the bank." "To the bank? What for?" "To withdraw money." Brad extended his hand. "Give me $1,200. $1,200? Last month we agreed on $800. Things changed. The kids need new uniforms. We have to pay the bills. Give me $1,200. I felt my blood boil. "I am not giving you $1,200, Brad." His expression hardened. "What did you say?" "No. I already gave you money last month. I can't keep giving you more." Brad got up from the recliner, walked toward me with slow, calculated steps. Listen to me well, old woman. You don't decide anything in this house. Here, I'm in charge, and if I tell you to give me $1,200, you give it to me. This is my house, I said, though my voice trembled. And you don't command anything here. For a moment I thought he was going to hit me. I saw the rage in his eyes. I saw him clench his fists. But then Sarah appeared on the stairs. What's going on here? Your mom doesn't want to cooperate, Brad said, not taking his eyes off me. Sarah came down the stairs, stood next to her husband, both of them facing me. Mom, give him the money. Sarah, I can't keep giving you money every month. My pension isn't enough. Then sell something. I gasped. Sell something? Yes, Mom. This house is full of old things you don't use. Sell Grandma's china set. Sell the paintings. Sell whatever. But get the money. Sarah! That china belonged to my mother. It's the only thing I have left of her. So what? Are you going to let your family suffer for an old plate? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You aren't suffering need. Brad simply doesn't want to work. The blow came so fast I didn't see it coming. Brad slapped me. It wasn't hard enough to knock me to the floor, but the emotional impact was devastating. I brought my hand to my cheek, felt the sting, felt the tears welling up. Brad! Sarah yelled. But she didn't yell out of indignation. She yelled out of fear that I would do something. Brad pointed a finger at me. Next time you disrespect me, it won't just be a slap. Understood? And he went up the stairs. I stood there, cheek burning, heart shattered. Sarah looked at me. For a second, just a second, I saw something in her eyes. Guilt, regret. But then she looked away. You shouldn't have provoked him, Mom. And she followed her husband upstairs. I was left alone in the living room, and in that moment, something inside me broke definitively. I went up to my room, locked the door, and took out the secret phone. My hands shook as I typed a message. Hi, this is Eleanor. Do you remember me? I need your advice. It's urgent. I sent it. 3 minutes later, the reply came. Of course I remember you, Eleanor. What's going on? Are you okay? I started crying while I typed. No, I'm not okay. I need help. Tell me what you need, anything. For now, I just need to know I can count on you. You can. You always could. Let me know when you're ready to talk. I'll be here. I hid the phone, wiped my tears, and for the first time in months, I felt I wasn't completely alone. The following days were a tense silence. Brad didn't ask me for money again, but his presence was increasingly aggressive. He slammed doors, yelled at the kids, looked at my things with a contempt that froze my blood. One afternoon, when I went out to buy bread, I returned to find my bedroom door open. I entered with a racing heart. Everything was tossed. My drawers open, my clothes thrown on the bed, my jewelry box overturned. They had been looking for something. I checked quickly. The oatmeal canister in the basement was safe. The secret phone was safe. But my wedding ring was gone. The ring Robert put on my finger 42 years ago. The ring I never took off, not even when he died. The ring I took off only to shower and kept in a velvet box. It was gone. I went down the stairs, furious. Sarah! Brad! I found them in the kitchen. Who went into my room? Sarah looked up from her phone. What are you talking about? My room is ransacked. Someone went in, and my wedding ring disappeared. Brad shrugged. I didn't do it. Me neither, Mom, said Sarah. Maybe you lost it. I didn't lose it. You stole it, and I know it was you. Brad stood up from the chair. Careful what you say, Eleanor. Or what? Are you going to hit me again? If necessary. Sarah stood up. Enough, both of you. Mom, nobody stole anything from you. You're paranoid. You're inventing things. I'm not inventing anything. First my earrings, now my ring. What's next? Are you going to sell my whole house while I sleep? Sarah let out a dry laugh. Don't be ridiculous. But something in her look confirmed what I already knew. They had my ring, and they had sold it. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything I had lost. My earrings, my ring, my dignity, my peace, and worst of all, my daughter. Because the woman living in my house wasn't Sarah anymore. She was a stranger with her face. The next day I decided to do something I never thought I would do. I went to a legal aid office. I asked the attorney to explain how inheritances worked, how wills worked, what happened if someone stole from you. The attorney, a man in his 60 seconds with thick glasses, listened to me with attention. Mrs. Vance, if you suspect your relatives are stripping you of your assets, you can take legal measures. You can disinherit them. You can protect your estate. How? First, we need to document everything. Every theft, every threat, every aggression. Second, we need witnesses. Is there anyone who can vouch for what you are living through? I thought of my neighbors, Mrs. Robinson next door, or old Mr. Clark who walked his dog, but I was ashamed to tell them. No, I lied. The attorney nodded. Then it will be harder, but not impossible. Do you have any document proving the house is yours? Yes. The deed. Good. Keep it in a safe place, a place they can't find. And if the situation gets dangerous, call the police. I left the office with a mix of relief and terror. Relief because I knew there were options. Terror because I knew using those options meant losing my family forever. That afternoon, when I returned home, I found Sarah waiting for me in the living room. Mom, where were you? I went for a walk. A walk? Where? To the park. Sarah narrowed her eyes. Just the park? Yes, Sarah, just the park. Why the interrogation? Because Brad saw you coming out of a lawyer's office. I felt the floor open beneath my feet. Were you following me? We weren't following you. Brad was driving by and saw you. What were you doing at a lawyer's? Mom. I thought fast. I was asking about my will. I want to update it. Update it? Why? Because I'm a 61-year-old woman, Sarah. It's normal to have my affairs in order. Sarah crossed her arms. And what are you going to put in that will? I looked her straight in the eye. That is my business. My daughter clenched her jaw. Fine, Mom. Keep your secrets. But I'm warning you, if you're thinking of disinheriting me, you're going to regret it. Are you threatening me? No. I'm letting you know. And she left the room. That night I hid the house deed in a manila envelope. I hid it inside an old Bible that no one opened. I put the Bible on the highest shelf of my closet, behind some shoeboxes. Then I took out the secret phone. I wrote another message. I think I'm going to need your help for real soon. Are you still there? The answer came in seconds. Here I am. Tell me what you need and when you need it. I'll let you know soon. Soon. I put the phone away, and for the first time in a long time, I felt I had a plan. A plan to get out of this. A plan to recover my life. But before I could execute it, things got much worse. 3 days later, the mailman delivered the electric bill. I opened it. $520. I froze. There must be a mistake. My bill never went over $150. There is no mistake, ma'am, the customer service rep told me on the phone. There was excessive consumption this billing cycle. I hung up, feeling the rage grow inside me. I went into the living room where Brad was watching TV. What is this? I said, showing him the bill. He didn't even turn to look at me. The electric bill. $520, Brad. What did you do? Leave all the lights on 24 hours a day? I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you know. This bill is inflated, and I know it was on purpose. You are trying to break me financially, so I give you more money. Brad finally looked at me and smiled. That cold, calculating smile I already knew. Pay the bill, Eleanor, or they cut the lights. And if they cut the lights, the kids won't be able to do their homework. Do you want that? This is your fault. Prove it. I couldn't, because I didn't have proof. I just had an impossible bill and the certainty that they were destroying me slowly. That night, I took out the secret phone for the last time before everything exploded. I wrote a long message. I told him everything. The money, the threats, the thefts, the slap, the inflated bill. I ended with a question. What do I do? I can't take it anymore. The answer came an hour later. Eleanor, what you are experiencing is financial abuse and domestic violence. You can press charges. I can help you, but I need you to tell me, are you ready to take that step? Because once you start, there is no turning back. I read the message over and over. Was I ready? Ready to report my own daughter? Ready to lose my grandchildren? Ready to be completely alone? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living like this. I wrote a last reply that night. I'm not ready yet, but soon I will be. Thank you for being there. I hid the phone, turned off the light, and prepared myself for what would come, because I felt in my bones that something terrible was about to happen. And I was right. What happened 3 days later changed everything. It was Friday afternoon. I was in the kitchen making vegetable soup. The kids, Tyler and Madison, were playing in the backyard. Sarah had gone to the store. Brad was in his room, as always, watching TV, or so I thought. When I went up to my room to get a sweater because it was getting chilly, I heard voices. They came from Sarah and Brad's room. The door was ajar. Normally, I don't stop to listen to private conversations, but something in Brad's tone made me freeze in the hallway. "I tell you it's almost done," Brad was saying. "Are you sure?" answered another voice. It wasn't Sarah, it was a man. I approached carefully, put my back against the wall, and listened. "Yeah, buddy, the old lady is practically broke. We've squeezed about $2,000 out of her in these 2 months, and she still has the jewelry that's left, some furniture we can sell, and most importantly, the house. And she already signed the power of attorney? No, she got stubborn with that. But it doesn't matter. I have another plan." "Which one?" "I'm going to make her look mentally incompetent. I'm documenting that she's senile, that she forgets things, that she claims we steal from her when she loses them herself. I already have a notebook with notes. When I have enough, I take her to a doctor who owes me a favor and I get a certificate of mental incapacity." The other man laughed. "You're a bastard, Brad. Business is business, buddy. That house is worth like $600,000. It's in a neighborhood that's appreciating. If I manage to get Sarah to inherit everything, and then convince my mother-in-law to sign the house over to Sarah's name, or get control through guardianship, we can sell it and split the money." "And does Sarah know all this?" There was a silence. "Sarah knows what she needs to know. She thinks we're just saving a little money until my business takes off. She doesn't know I already sold her earrings and ring. She doesn't know I'm inflating the bills to get more money out of her. And she definitely doesn't know I plan to sell this house as soon as it's legally possible. And if the old lady realizes, she won't realize. And if she does, it's already too late. Besides, who is she going to tell? She has no friends, no family. She is alone. Completely alone." I felt my legs shaking. I moved away from the door carefully. I went down the stairs without making a sound. I entered my room, locked the door, and collapsed on the bed. I couldn't breathe. Everything was a lie. Everything was a trap. Brad never had any intention of living together as a family. He never had any intention of taking care of me. From the beginning, from the first day they moved into my house, his only goal was to strip me of everything. And the worst part, the worst of all. Sarah knew. Maybe she didn't know the details. Maybe she didn't know about the sold jewelry or the inflated bills, but she knew they were using me. She knew they were robbing me. And she did nothing to stop it. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling my whole world crumble. I thought of Robert, of what he would say if he were alive, how he would protect me, how he would kick Brad out of the house. But Robert wasn't here. And I was alone. Completely alone. I took out the secret phone. My hands shook so much I could barely type. "I need to see you urgent. I discovered something grave." The answer came in 2 minutes. "Where and when?" "Tomorrow, at the coffee shop in the park, 10 a.m. I'll be there." "Are you in danger now?" "I don't know, but I'm scared. If you feel you are in immediate danger, call me at the number I gave you, no matter the time. Okay?" "Okay." I hid the phone, and that night I couldn't sleep. Every noise startled me. Every step in the hallway made me think they were coming for me. Every creak of the house made me imagine the worst. At 3 a.m., I heard someone trying to open my bedroom door. The handle moved once, twice, then silence. I froze in bed, not daring to breathe. Minutes later, I heard steps moving away. The next day, I woke up with dark circles under my eyes and a racing heart. I waited for Sarah and Brad to go out. They had told the kids they were taking them to Brad's mother's house. As soon as they left, I dressed quickly, put on a sweater, grabbed my purse, and left the house. I walked fast toward the park. I felt like someone was following me, though when I turned around, there was no one. I arrived at the coffee shop at 10 sharp, and there he was, Detective Mark Sullivan. We had met 20 years ago when I worked at the law firm. He was a young officer who came to file reports. I helped him on a complicated case, giving him access to documents he needed. Since then, we maintained a respectful friendship. Over time, Mark ascended the ranks, became a detective, and was now a senior officer in the precinct. He saw me enter and stood up from the table. He greeted me with a hug. "Eleanor, it's been years." "I know, Mark. Thank you for coming." We sat down. He ordered 2 coffees, and I told him everything from the beginning. From the day Sarah convinced me to live together, from the first time they asked for money, the thefts, the slap, the inflated bill. And finally, I told him what I heard yesterday. Brad's plan, the certificate of mental incapacity, the sale of the house. Mark listened in silence, his face hardened with every detail. When I finished, he put his coffee cup on the table. "Eleanor, what you are describing is a serious crime. It's elder abuse, financial exploitation, and fraud. And if they manage to make you sign something under duress or under the pretext of mental incapacity, it would also be theft." "I know, but I have no proof, Mark. I just have my word." "Your word is enough to start, but we need to document everything. Do you have receipts, messages, anything that proves what they are doing to you?" I thought fast. "I have the inflated electric bill. I have my bank statement showing I've been withdrawing cash constantly, and I have this." I took out my personal phone and showed him the messages Sarah had sent asking for money. They weren't many, but they were something. Mark reviewed them. "This helps, but we need more. We need concrete proof of the threats, of the thefts." "How? Can you record conversations?" I froze. "Record them?" "Yes. If Brad threatens you again or asks for money, record him with your phone without him realizing." "I don't know if I can." Mark put his hand on mine. "Eleanor, I understand you're scared. I understand she's your daughter. But what they are doing to you is a crime. And if we don't do something now, they are going to finish stripping you of everything, including your house." He was right. I knew it. But the idea of recording my own daughter, of gathering evidence against her, broke my heart. "I need to think about it," I said. Mark nodded. "Okay, take your time. But not much. The more time passes, the harder it will be to reverse the damage. And if Brad manages to get that certificate—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. We said goodbye with another hug. "Keep my number on speed dial," Mark told me before leaving. "If anything happens, if you feel safe, call me. I'll be there in minutes." I nodded and walked back home with a heavy heart. When I arrived, Sarah and Brad had already returned. They were in the living room arguing in low voices. As soon as they saw me enter, they went silent. "Hi, Mom," Sarah said with a forced smile. "Where were you?" "I went for a walk in the park." "The park? Alone?" "Yes, Sarah. Alone." "Is there a problem?" Brad looked at me suspiciously. "Who did you talk to in the park?" I felt a chill. "How do you know I talked to someone?" "I saw you," Brad said. "I saw you going into the coffee shop. Who were you with?" I froze. Had he followed me? "With a friend," I lied. "A friend from work from years ago." "What friend?" "Brad, I don't have to explain myself to you." He got up from the sofa. "Yes, you have to give them to me because you're acting very weird lately. Sneaking out, keeping secrets." "I'm not keeping secrets." "Yes, you are. And I know you're planning something." "Planning something? What are you talking about?" Brad walked toward me. He stopped inches from my face. "I saw you coming out of the lawyer's office last week. I saw you in the park today. I know you're looking for help. I know you want to kick us out of here." "This is my house, Brad. I can kick you out whenever I want." He smiled, that smile that already gave me nightmares. "You can't. Because I have rights as a tenant. Because Sarah is your daughter. And because if you try anything, I'm going to prove you're crazy. That you're senile. That you aren't fit to make decisions." There was the threat I heard yesterday. The same threat, now said to my face. "I'm not crazy. We'll see about that." Sarah stood up. "Brad, enough." But her voice had no strength, no conviction. Brad turned his back on me. "Watch yourself, Eleanor, because you're playing with fire." And he went up the stairs. Sarah looked at me. For a moment I saw my daughter, the real Sarah. I saw guilt in her eyes. I saw regret. But then she lowered her gaze. "You should be more careful, Mom." And she left me alone in the living room. I went up to my room, locked the door, took out the secret phone, and wrote a message to Mark. He threatened me. He told me he's going to prove I'm crazy, that he's going to take everything from me. I need help. The reply came immediately. Start recording everything, every conversation, every threat, and keep that phone well hidden. I'm going to talk to a judge I know. We're going to prepare a protective order, but I need proof. I will do it. And Eleanor, if the situation gets violent, don't hesitate to call me day or night. Okay. I hid the phone. That night, when everyone was sleeping, I went down to the kitchen. I needed water, I needed air, and it was there, in the dark kitchen, where I saw something that froze my blood. On the table was a folder. A folder with the logo of a psychiatric clinic. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were documents, forms, and a letter addressed to a doctor. Dear Dr. Morrison, I am writing to request a psychiatric evaluation for my mother-in-law, Mrs. Eleanor Vance, age 61. In recent months, we have noticed considerable cognitive deterioration. She forgets where she puts things and then accuses us of stealing from her. She has episodes of paranoia. She believes we are watching or chasing her. Her behavior has become erratic and unpredictable. Attached is a log of incidents I have documented in the last 2 months. I request a full evaluation to determine if it is necessary to initiate guardianship proceedings due to mental incapacity. Sincerely, Brad Miller. My hands shook so much the paper almost fell. He had already done it. He had already started the process. He had already manufactured evidence that I was crazy. And that log of incidents he mentioned was the notebook he talked about on the phone, a notebook full of lies. I took out my personal phone. With trembling hands, I took photos of all the documents, the letter, the forms. I put everything back exactly as it was. I went up to my room. I sent the photos to Mark via the secret phone. His reply came in minutes. This is gold, Eleanor. This is proof of attempted fraud. Tomorrow, first thing I go to a judge. We're going to stop this. What do I do in the meantime? Act normal. Don't let them know you found this. And stay alert. If Brad suspects you discovered his plan, he might turn violent. Hang in there, Eleanor. We're almost done with this. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, sitting on my bed, with the secret phone in one hand and Robert's photo in the other. Help me, honey, I whispered. Help me get out of this. And as the night advanced, while I listened to the sounds of the sleeping house, I knew the end was approaching. An end that would be painful, an end that would be necessary, but an end at last. Because I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't keep being a prisoner in my own home. And even if it hurt my soul, even if it shattered my heart, I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to fight, even if that fight meant losing my daughter forever. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? The next 2 days were the longest of my life. I had to act as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't know the plan, as if I hadn't seen the documents, as if my world weren't collapsing. Mark called me on the secret phone Monday morning. Eleanor, I spoke with the judge. He is willing to hear you, but he needs you to file a formal complaint. And he needs you to have more proof of the verbal threats. What kind of proof? Recordings? Yes. Something that demonstrates Brad has threatened you directly. Mark, if I start recording conversations, he's going to notice. He doesn't have to notice. Use your phone's voice memo app. Leave it recording in your pocket or on the table face down, as if it were there by accident. I took a deep breath. Okay, I'll try. And Eleanor, be very careful. If Brad suspects anything, the situation can escalate. Keep your personal phone with you always. And if you sense danger, call me immediately. I will. That afternoon, when Brad arrived from the street, I was in the kitchen starting dinner. He entered as always, with that attitude of owning everything. Eleanor, I need to talk to you. I left the knife on the cutting board. About what? Money. Your check arrived this month, right? Yes. Good. I need $1,200. I felt my blood boil, but I held back. I took my personal phone out of my apron pocket. I put it on the kitchen table with the screen facing down, as if I had left it there carelessly. But beforehand, I activated the voice recorder. Brad, I already gave you money the last few months. I can't keep giving you more. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you what you're going to do. And if I refuse? Brad walked toward me. His face was inches from mine. If you refuse, things are going to get very ugly for you, old woman. Very ugly. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. Here things happen how I say, and if you don't like it, you can leave. But this house stays with us. This house is mine, Brad. It's in my name. He smiled. That smile that gave me nausea. For now. But not for much longer. I already spoke to a doctor. I already have your madness documented. In a few weeks, I'm going to have a certificate saying you aren't fit to make decisions, and then Sarah is going to take charge of everything, including this house. I'm not crazy. That's what all crazy people say. He turned to leave, but before reaching the door, he stopped. Oh, and another thing. Don't go out again without telling us. Don't have secret meetings with anyone because we are watching you. And if you try to seek help again, I'm going to lock you in your room and no one will find you. He left the kitchen. I stood there trembling. I picked up my phone, stopped the recording, and listened to it. It was perfect. Every word, every threat, everything had been recorded. That night I sent the audio file to Mark via the secret phone. His reply was immediate. This is exactly what we needed. Tomorrow I go to the judge. With this and the documents you photographed, we can get a restraining order and start the eviction process against Brad. Are you ready? I looked at the phone screen. I was ready. I was ready to destroy my family. I was ready to see my daughter hate me. I was ready to be completely alone. I typed a single word. Yes. Good. Tomorrow afternoon, I need you to come file the formal complaint. Can you leave the house without them suspecting? I'll find a way. Perfect. I expect you tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the precinct. And Eleanor, hang on a little longer. We're almost done. I hid the phone, and that night, for the first time in months, I slept a little better because I knew there was hope. The next day, Tuesday, I waited for Sarah to go out with the kids to run errands. Brad was in his room watching TV. I dressed quickly, grabbed my purse, and left the house. I walked fast toward the main avenue and hailed a taxi. To the police precinct, please. 20 minutes later, I was in front of Mark's desk. He received me with a hug. You came. Good. Sit down. He took out several documents. This is the complaint form. We are going to accuse Brad of domestic abuse, financial exploitation, threats, and attempted fraud. With the recordings and the photos, we have a solid case. I started filling out the form. With every line I wrote, I felt I was digging the grave of my relationship with my daughter, but I didn't stop, because I couldn't keep living like this. When I finished, Mark reviewed everything. Perfect. Now I'm going to ask the judge to issue a temporary restraining order against Brad. That means he won't be able to come near you. The police will serve him in the next few hours. He has to leave. And what will happen with Sarah? Mark looked at me with sadness. Eleanor, if Sarah was involved in the theft of your money or Brad's plan, she could also face charges. But for now, we'll focus on Brad. She has threatened me too. I thought of all the times Sarah asked for money, called me selfish, looked the other way. Not directly, but she was complicit. Mark nodded. I understand. Let's take it step by step. First, we get Brad out of your house. Then we see what we do with Sarah. I signed the complaint. Mark walked me to the door. Eleanor, in a few hours we are going to your house to serve Brad. I need you to be prepared when we arrive. He might get violent. He might scream. But we will be there to protect you. And if Sarah hates me? Mark put his hand on my shoulder. She might hate you now. But someday, when she understands what that man was doing, she might thank you. And if she doesn't, at least you will be safe. I returned home in another taxi. When I arrived, Sarah had already returned. She was in the kitchen making lunch. Hi, Mom. Where were you? I went to the doctor. The doctor? Are you sick? Just a routine checkup. I lied with such naturalness, I surprised myself. Sarah didn't say anything else. But I knew she didn't believe me. At 5 p.m., I heard the sirens. My heart started beating like crazy. 2 patrol cars parked in front of my house. Mark got out of one, accompanied by 3 uniformed officers. Brad came running out of his room. What the hell is going on? Why are there cops here? Sarah came out of the kitchen. Mom, what's happening? I said nothing. Mark knocked on the door. Brad opened it. Who are you? Detective Mark Sullivan. Are you Bradley Miller? Yeah. What do you want? I have a restraining order against you. You have been accused of domestic violence, financial exploitation, threats, and attempted fraud against Mrs. Eleanor Vance. You have to vacate this property immediately." Brad's face turned red. "What? This is crazy." "It's not crazy, sir. It's a court order. You have 30 minutes to gather your personal belongings and leave the property." Brad turned to me. "Was it you? Did you do this?" I didn't answer. Sarah approached. "Mom, what did you do?" Finally, I spoke. What I should have done months ago, protected myself. Brad walked toward me. Mark stepped in between us immediately. "One more step and I arrest you for violation of the order." Brad clenched his fists. "This isn't over, you stupid old woman. You're going to regret this." "You heard me, Mr. Miller. Any additional threat will be documented. Now get your things." Brad went up the stairs in a fury. Sarah stayed there looking at me with an expression I will never forget. It wasn't just anger, it was hate. "How could you do this to your own family, Mom?" "Sarah, he was using you. He was using both of us. He sold my jewelry, he inflated the bills, he planned to take my house by having me declared insane." "That's not true." I took out my phone, played the recording. Sarah heard her husband's voice, every word, every threat. When it finished, she had tears in her eyes. But they weren't tears of repentance, they were tears of rage. "You provoked him. You forced him to do this with your selfishness." Sarah. "No, Mom. I don't want to hear you. You chose the police over your own family. You chose your money over your grandkids." "I didn't choose anything." Brad forced me. Brad came down the stairs with 2 suitcases. "Let's go, Sarah." My daughter looked at him. "Where are we going?" "To my brother's place for now." Sarah ran up the stairs. She started packing things in a hurry. I approached Mark. "I don't want them to take the kids." Mark shook his head. "Eleanor, they are your grandkids, but Sarah is the mother. We can't stop her from taking them unless there is a court order authorizing it, and that takes time. And if I never see them again, then you will have to fight for that right. But first, you need to be safe." 20 minutes later, Sarah came down with the kids. Tyler and Madison looked at me confused. "Grandma, why are we leaving?" asked Tyler. "Because your grandmother is a bad person," Sarah replied. Those words pierced me like a knife. "Sarah, don't tell them that. It's the truth." They left the house. Brad shot me a final look full of venom. "This doesn't end here." And they left. I watched them get into their car. I watched them drive away. And in that moment, I was left completely alone. Mark put his hand on my shoulder. "You did good, Eleanor. I know it hurts, but you did good." I closed the door and collapsed on the foyer floor and cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in years, because I had won my house back, but I had lost my daughter and my grandchildren, and I didn't know if I would ever see them again. Mark stayed with me a while, made me tea, made sure I was okay. That night I walked through my house. The house that was now empty. The house that was now only mine. I went up to my room, took out the secret phone, wrote to Mark, "Thank you for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you. You don't have to thank me. You did the right thing. Rest. Tomorrow we continue with the process." I put the phone away, lay in my bed, and looked out the window at the dark garden where my hydrangeas once grew, where my grandkids once played, where I was once happy. And I thought, was it worth it? I didn't know yet. But I knew one thing. I was no longer a prisoner. I no longer lived in fear. They weren't going to rob me anymore. And that had to be worth something. The first few days after they left were strange. The house was silent. A silence I hadn't experienced since they moved in. No yelling, no slamming doors, no heavy footsteps on the stairs, just silence. And although that silence should have brought me peace, it brought something else. Loneliness. A loneliness so deep that sometimes I sat in the living room and wondered if I had done the right thing. Mark called me every day. "How are you, Eleanor?" "Fine." I lied. "Heard anything from Sarah?" "No. Nothing." And it was true. My daughter hadn't called, hadn't texted. It was as if I had died to her. A week after the eviction, Mark came to visit. He brought more papers. "Eleanor, we have to talk about next steps." We sat at the kitchen table. Brad filed a counter-complaint. He says you accused him falsely, that he never threatened you. But I have the recordings. I have the photos. We know the truth. It's just a matter of time. How much time? A few months. Maybe a year. These processes are slow. Okay, I can wait. And there is something else. Do you want to include Sarah in the lawsuit? I froze. Sarah? Yes. She took money from you too. She was complicit in Brad's plan. Technically, we could charge her too. I closed my eyes. No. Are you sure? Yes. Sarah is my daughter, and although she hurt me, I can't do that to her. Mark nodded slowly. Okay. I respect your decision. But I want you to know something. Sarah can be called as a witness, and depending on what she says, she could incriminate herself. I understand. And your will? Have you modified it? That question hurt more than any other. No. Eleanor, you need to protect your assets. If something happens to you and your will still leaves everything to Sarah, Brad will find a way to get your house. He was right. Okay, I'll modify it. Good. I'm going to give you the contact of a trust attorney. That afternoon, after Mark left, I sat in the kitchen for hours, and I made a decision. A decision that hurt to my bones, but I knew was necessary. The next day, I went to the attorney's office. Mr. Vance, no relation, was a serious man. Mrs. Vance, what changes do you wish to make? I took a deep breath. I want to disinherit my daughter. The attorney looked at me with surprise. Are you sure? Yes. My daughter was complicit in a plan to strip me of my home, but I want to leave everything to my grandchildren, Tyler and Madison, in a trust until they are 25, and I want the trustee to be Mark Sullivan. I also left a letter explaining why. To Tyler and Madison, I did this to protect your future. This house is yours. When I left that office, I felt a heavy weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't revenge, it was protection. The following days were of reconstruction. I started cleaning the house, getting rid of everything Brad had brought. Little by little, my house became my house again. I bought new hydrangeas and planted them in the same spot where Brad had ripped out the others. I started walking to the park again. Mrs. Robinson, my neighbor, stopped me one day. Eleanor, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mary. If you need anything, I'm here. And she hugged me. That hug reminded me I wasn't completely alone. 1 month after the eviction, I received an unexpected call. It was Sarah. Hi, Mom. Her voice sounded cold, distant. Sarah, how are you? How are the kids? The kids are fine, no thanks to you. I felt a stab in my chest. Sarah, I don't want to hear your excuses, Mom. I'm just calling to tell you something. Brad and I are leaving the city. We're moving to Phoenix. Phoenix? Yes. He got a job there. But we aren't coming back. And I don't want you to try to contact us. The kids don't need a grandmother who destroyed their family and their lives. Sarah, I didn't destroy anything. I protected myself. That's what you believe. But the truth is you chose your money over us, and I will never forgive you for that. Daughter, please. Goodbye, Mom. And she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, feeling the tears run down my face. I knew this moment would come, but that didn't make it less painful. That night I wrote to Mark. Sarah is going to Phoenix. She said she doesn't want me to see my grandkids. The reply came, I'm sorry, Eleanor. I know it hurts. But you did the right thing. Time passed. 6 months. My life became a quiet routine. Mark visited weekly. I learned to live alone without feeling lonely. I made new friends at the community center. My check arrived punctually, and now that money was all mine. I bought new clothes, got a haircut. I started to look like the woman I used to be. The case against Brad moved forward. Then, in the 8th month, Mark arrived with news. Eleanor. Sarah and Brad. Things aren't going well in Phoenix. What do you mean? Mark showed me a social media post from a mutual cousin. It said, so sad to see how some people destroy their lives. Sarah was always so hardworking. I made some calls, Mark explained. Brad never got a job in Phoenix. He lied. They went there with nothing. They are living in a rented room in a bad area. Sarah is cleaning houses. Brad still isn't working. And apparently, They fight constantly. I felt a knot in my stomach. It wasn't satisfaction, it was sadness. 2 months later, the second piece of news arrived. Eleanor, Mrs. Robinson told me. Did you hear about Brad? He was arrested in Phoenix. My heart raced. Arrested? Why? Attempted burglary. He stole jewelry from a lady Sarah was cleaning for. He was caught on camera, and when the police searched their room, they found more jewelry. Jewelry he couldn't explain. My jewelry, I whispered. Yes. The Phoenix PD found pieces matching the description of what you reported stolen. I called Mark. He's going to jail, Eleanor. No doubt. 3 weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number. Hi, Mom. It was Sarah. Broken. Destroyed. Sarah. Mom. Brad is in jail. And I don't have money for a lawyer. I don't have money for anything. I barely have enough to eat. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but please, Mom. The kids need help. Sarah. Did you know what Brad was planning? Silence. Not everything. I didn't know he hit you. But I knew he was taking money. I knew he sold your jewelry. Why didn't you stop him? Because I was scared. Scared of being alone. Scared I couldn't support the kids alone. I'm going to transfer you $150, I said, but on one condition. You use it only for the kids, not for lawyers for Brad, just the kids. Yes, Mom, I promise. And Sarah. This doesn't mean we're okay. I know. Do you still love Brad? Long silence. I don't know. Maybe I loved him, or maybe I was just scared. But now, I think he used us both. Brad was sentenced to 5 years in Arizona for burglary, and then he would be extradited to face charges here. Total, almost 10 years. Sarah eventually divorced him. She moved back to a smaller town nearby, but not with me. We talk now. Slowly building bridges. My grandkids, Tyler and Madison, come to visit sometimes. It's been 2 years since that night. I am 63. I live alone in my house. My hydrangeas bloom every spring. And although my life isn't perfect, it's mine. This morning, while drinking coffee in the garden, I saw a yellow butterfly land on the hydrangeas. I thought of Robert. You did good, honey. I'm proud of you. Everything will be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Because justice, even if late, always arrives. You just have to be strong enough to wait for it. Thank you for listening.